So, hello there, and welcome back to yet another Night of the Movies podcast. And in these podcasts, I talk all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing Maestro after getting to see it at the BFI Film Festival. But before I do that, I should say what I say at the start of every podcast I do, which is, if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, hello to my viewers, but you prefer to listen to your podcasts, well, guess what? You're in luck, because you can listen to this podcast on Spotify at Night of the Movies on that platform. And if you are already listening to this podcast on Spotify, hello there to podcast listeners, then you can also check this podcast out visually on my YouTube channel at Night of the Movies on that platform as well. Likewise, wherever you may be watching or listening to this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the podcast, of course, and leave me some feedback on things to improve on in future podcasts, because there's always things to improve on, and feedback is, as ever, much appreciated. So, let's get into it. Maestro. So this is a new Bradley Cooper film. He has directed it and he is starring in it. And his last directional feature was A Star Is Born in 2018. I think that's when that film came out. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. But that film came out, the film came out a good couple of years ago now, the last directional feature. And it was A Star Is Born, as I already said. And I must admit, I'm not the biggest fan of that film. I mean, maybe I need to rewatch it, but I wasn't taken by it as some people were. I didn't really care too much about the characters. I did think it was really well directed, particularly for Bradley Cooper as a first-time director, which he was with that film, but it just wasn't for me. Again, maybe I need to rewatch it, but I don't remember liking it too much when I saw it the first time. Now we want to his second full-length feature film, though, that he has directed with Maestro. And this film interested me for a number of reasons. It interested me for a number of reasons, and I wanted to see it on the cinema and I wanted to see it in the cinema for one big reason. So it interested me because it's a film about Leonard Bernstein. You know, if you don't know who he is, he did the music of West Side Story. That's what I mostly know him for, and even so I'm not really familiar with Leonard Bernstein, I love his music for that film, though, or the music for, was it a production before? I'm not even sure. I showed you how much I really know about him and his music for that film, but I just love the music for West Side Story. That's what I'm trying to say. I love the music for West Side Story. And when I heard that Kay Mulligan was cast in the film, that got me more interested, because Kay Mulligan is one of the best actors working today. She's so good in everything she's in, even in bad stuff that she's in. She's so good in that bad stuff. And Bradley Cooper directing for the second time, I was thinking, oh my god, could his directing be even better? And he's once again doing a film with music, and I'm a big music person. I often speak about this in my podcast. I talk about the score for film quite a lot. And I will be talking about the way music is used in this film in a bit later in this podcast. So, I was really excited to see Bradley Cooper directing a full-length feature film for the second time. And I really wanted to see it on the big screen too. But the thing is, I wasn't sure if I was going to get to watch it on the big screen, because the film is going to Netflix. It's a Netflix film, as far as I'm aware. They produced the film, and it is getting a limited theatrical release, probably so it can be considered for the Academy Awards. But the thing is, when films have a limited theatrical release, I don't usually get to go and watch them in the cinema, because I'm busy and the cinema times don't align with me, and I have to go and travel to go and watch it, and I don't really like doing that if I don't have to. So I really wanted to watch it in the cinema, but I felt quite disappointed when I heard it was going to Netflix. Like, I'm not going to get to see it in the cinema. I know it's having a limited theatrical release and all that jazz, but the chances are I'm not going to get to see it in a cinema. Then I had the opportunity, I heard of the chance to go and watch it at the BFI Film Festival, and that's what I did. I got my tickets comes before the BFI Film Festival, and I got my tickets to go and see this in the cinema, and I saw on the same day that I saw Bike Riders, which I reviewed yesterday. If you haven't checked out my review of that, please do, by the way, because I loved that film. And I saw this film on the same day. It was the second film that I saw at the BFI Film Festival in London, and I'm so glad that I did. Now, according to IMDb, the plot for the film, the plot for Maestro goes as follows. Maestro tells the complex love story of Leonard Bernstein and Felicia, I want to get a second name here, Felicia Montilgray. I might be mispronouncing her name, and apologies if I am. So that's Leonard Bernstein, played by Bradley Cooper in the film, and Felicia Montilgray, again, not sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, no, apologies if I am, played by Kay Mulligan. And their love story spans over 30 years from the time they met in 1946 at a party and continuing through 2 engagements, a 25-year marriage, and 3 children. And you see all that happen in this film. And so what it is really about is a love story between Leonard Bernstein and his wife, Felicia Montilgray. I think that's what the second name is. I'm probably mispronouncing it. But yeah, the film follows a love story around Leonard Bernstein and his wife, played by Bradley Cooper and Kay Mulligan in the film. And honestly, I found this film to be absolutely magnificent. This is such a remarkable piece of cinema. It is so good. And I was swept up by it. I mean, it throws you straight in its opening with all this swooshing and extravagant camera movements. And it's like Bradley Cooper is literally taking you by the hand and going, come into this film. I'm showing you what I'm doing. This is what I want to... This is the story I want to be telling. I have so much invested into the film. And it was like he was telling us that. It's like he was showing us that even in the opening of this film. And then as the film carries on, I mean, it doesn't... It's not, it's not quite as exciting as the opening, but it's still constantly captivating and engaging, and it becomes really emotionally affecting, to the point that when I think about this film, I get quite sad. And I'm not going to get into why, but I get quite sad thinking about this film, because there's so many moments when I was almost in tears in this jam-packed cinema. I was almost breaking down because of how emotive I found this film to be and how incredibly engrossing it was. And I love the way that Leonard Bernstein's music was used in the film. I mean, it perfectly encapsulates so many moments, and the use of music feels so on point. It feels at times like it was always made for the film, when actually it was the other way around in a way, because, the film was actually kind of made around the music, I'm guessing, but that's what it feels like. But yeah, the point, the music perfectly encapsulates so much of this film. The performances are so good. I mean, Bradley Cooper was excellent in A Star Is Born. His performance in that film was so great. But his performance in this, I might say, is better. He throws himself into the role of Leonard Bernstein. And what was great was that you had Leonard Bernstein's kids come out to introduce the film beforehand, alongside many people who actually worked on this film. They came to introduce the film to all of Leonard Bernstein's daughters. Not all of his kids came out. Apparently he's got a son who wasn't there, but his 2 daughters did come out. And they talked about how much Bradley Cooper wanted them to be involved in the production. And you really feel that, though, in the film. You really feel that. You really feel the passion and the investment Bradley Cooper has in telling this story and telling it right. His performance of Leonard Bernstein is, I'm going to use a word again. It's magnificent. It is magnificent. And I would eat my hat if he didn't get nominated for an Academy Award, because he throws himself into that role. And I couldn't keep my eyes off the screen. Every single time Bradley Cooper was on screen as Leonard Bernstein, I was completely captivated and engaged just through his performance and the way he plays Leonard Bernstein. I mean, I must say, I don't really know what Leonard Bernstein was like in person. I haven't really watched interviews of him. But at the same time, though, Bradley Cooper's performance feels authentic. It feels like you're watching this story about this real-life person. And Kay Mulligan acting opposite Bradley Cooper is absolutely excellent as well. She's so good in this film. I mean, can anyone actually think a performance where a Kay Mulligan performance that is actually bad? I mean, she's so great, and she's one of those actors I forget how great she is, and then I watch her and I'm like, oh, she's one of the best actors in the world. I mean, one of the best actors in the world, even. I love her in this film. She was so good, and she really is the heart of the film as well, and she has so much to do in terms of a performance and so much weight she has on her, but she carries that so eloquently in a performance. And there's so many moments between Bradley Cooper and Kay Mulligan when they were playing these real life people, and it just felt so real. There's one scene in the film which comes to mind right now where Bradley Cooper just left the camera on Bradley Cooper in the scene and Kay Mulligan's characters. It's like he left the camera on the scene playing, and there's no edits in the scene, just one long take, but the camera doesn't move in, it doesn't cut, it doesn't zoom in or anything like that. It just stays in one position and lets this scene play out between Bradley Cooper as Leonard Bernstein and Kay Mulligan as Felicia, whatever her second name is, again, I'm mispronouncing it, and I'm forgetting what it is right now, and I apologise for that. But there's a scene in the film where he just lets those two go at it. He just lets those two characters talk to each other. And it's just, I was sat there in awe of this filmmaking, because you don't really get that in a lot of films nowadays. Even in films I love, the editing is constant, And this scene went on for about 5 minutes, maybe more, maybe less even. And the thing is, I was sat there just so captivated by how it was shot and the performance, because that scene just relies on performances, and yet it's so good though. And I just loved this film, if you haven't grasped that already. I absolutely adored it, and I didn't love it coming out to cinema. I must admit, I didn't love it coming out to cinema. I came out to cinema and went, oh, it's very good, but it was just missing something for me. But the thing is, the more I think about it, the more it works for me. The more I am in awe of how absolutely incredible it is. There's one scene in the film where you see, I don't really want to go into spoilers what happens, because this is a spoiler for review, because the film isn't actually out yet. I got to see a preview screening of it, which I'm a bit smug about. But anyway, yeah, I don't want to go into spoilers, but there's one scene in the film when you see Bradley Cooper as Leonard Bernstein conducting his orchestra, and I was just sat there completely in shock at how much this was working for me. Now, saying all that, I need to see it on streaming, because I don't know if it had the same effect for me. Because I got to see it in the cinema, and I got to see it in a very big cinema, saying that. Actually, I got to see it in this grand hall, and I must admit, although Bradley Cooper is very, very good in the film, some of the dialogue I felt with him as Leonard Bernstein was slightly inaudible, and maybe that's because the hall I was watching this in, maybe it's because I wouldn't call it a cinema room, because it wasn't, unless it is classed as a cinema room, I'm not really sure, but for me, I didn't feel it was a cinema room, and maybe the environment I was watching it in, maybe it was because the environment I was watching it was very echoey. There was a huge echo in this hall when I was watching it, and so maybe that's why I felt that some of his dialogue was slightly inaudible. And I feel that maybe if I watch on Netflix, I won't have that problem. And I also want to watch it on Netflix though, because I might have a very different experience with it. Like watching this in the cinema and watching those big orchestral scenes where the music is used so fluently and so well, and just literally fills up the room you are watching. Fills up the cinema room I was watching this in. It's not a cinema room, but you get the point of making it filled up the hall that I was watching this in. I don't know how that would be at home. I don't know if I'd have the same effect. I don't know if those scenes where you see him conducting the orchestra, or the scenes where the music is just used, I don't know if it have the same effect, and I don't know if the film as a whole would have the same effect watching it on streaming. It's one of the reasons that when a streaming movie comes out, I often go, I wish I got to see that in the cinema. If it was great, like Prey, the Predator film which came out last year, wish I got to see that in the cinema, because I loved watching it on streaming. God knows how much I would have loved it more if I got to see it in a cinema. And I am wondering how people are going to react to this film. I feel it might be quite different than the way I'm reacting to it. And I feel like if I got to see it on streaming for the first time, I would react to it differently. And I am also, I'm keeping in mind that maybe I feel this way about this film because I got to see it in a cinema. And I do need to see it again, and maybe I'll talk about it on this channel once I do rewatch it on streaming, because I've got a feeling I might have a slightly different opinion on it. Although I might not. That's the thing. I might not. I just don't know. And also, I should say that this isn't a straight-up biopic. People expect this to be a straight-up Leonard Bernstein biopic that's told in a simplistic form are going to be disappointed. They're going to be underwhelmed. This is not a straight music biopic like, off the top of my head right now, say Bohemian Rhapsody, or even it's not even similar to Love and Mercy, the Brian, what's it? Brian Wilson, that's his name. Brian Wilson Beach Boys biopic, which I really liked, by the way, but it's not even similar to that. It's told in a way that isn't going to be for everybody. I'm not going to get into what I mean there, but it's told in a way that is quite unusual. It's not the type of storytelling I was expecting with this film, and it did take me a little bit to adjust to it. And I don't know if people... I mean, I don't know much about his life, I must say, and I did learn a lot more about his life while I was watching this film, but I think people expecting to learn a lot about Leonard Bernstein's life and learn about his... how he does all his music, how he creates all his music, may be disappointed, may be underwhelmed. I wasn't, because I was able to adjust to the film it was, but I was expecting a different film, and the film I was expecting to watch, I was expecting there to be more on how Bernstein crafted his music, and you did get that in the film. There were some particularly memorable moments where you do get to see how he crafts his music and how much music means to him. But I would have liked there to be a bit more of that. I mean, the focus on marriage and the focus on relationships and the focus on love and desire in the film works so well, and I think that's particularly down to the lead performances of Bradley Cooper and Kate Mulligan, how Bradley Cooper directs that marriage and how the storytelling is done there, and how Bradley Cooper does all that with behind the camera and in front of the camera. And I do think that main relationship works very well. I just would have liked in a bit more of the music, though. I would have liked in a bit more behind how he does all that and how he created all these memorable pieces of music. I mean, there isn't a day go by where I don't hum to myself, Maria. Is it Maria? I'm sure it's Maria. Yeah, Maria from West Side Story. What I'm saying, yeah, the song that Tony sings when he's just met Maria. I've just met a girl named Maria. Leonard Bernstein wrote that piece of music, and there isn't a day go by where I don't hum that to myself. And I wanted a bit more behind how he wrote pieces of music like that, and I did want to learn a bit more about his music making outside of his marriage, perhaps. But saying all that, this is still a very good film, and I would definitely recommend it when it comes out. And I know there's been some... I don't really know why, if I'm being completely honest, but there has been some controversy surrounding Bradley Cooper's nose in this film, his prosthetic nose. It was never an issue for me watching it in the cinema. The whole stuff with his nose was never an issue for me. I mean, you may feel differently and it may affect you whilst watching it, but I honestly felt when all that stuff came out about, Bradley Cooper's nose in Maestro, why has he done that? I honestly felt like it was much to do about nothing, especially when the Bernstein family came out and said, we don't care, we're fine with the fact that he has his prosthetic nose in the film. That's when the conversation really should have ended. And so, yeah, all the stuff with the prosthetic nose didn't bother me whatsoever. I'm literally just mentioning it because there has been some talk surrounding it. I've been completely honest, I don't know why. Back onto the film. It's so well made. It's so well directed. And Bradley Cooper has outdone himself with his second full-length feature film. I mean, I must admit, I didn't know if it would be that well directed. I thought maybe, take a bit of a backseat with the directing. No, I think his directing is even better here, and you feel how much passion he has into this project, and you feel how much invested he is into his project, and you feel invested in the love story. That's what this film is about. It's about a love story, and you feel invested in it, and it is emotionally affecting. It is funny at times. There are moments of comedy and levity which work really well, and it takes you on this journey, and it never really lets you go. It captures you, it literally takes you by the hand in its opening, and it doesn't ever let go throughout the rest of it. It doesn't ever let go throughout the rest of the film. I also love the way it's shot, which is one thing I haven't really mentioned. I love the way it looks. It's just so beautiful, and the transition, the first half of the film is shot in black and white. The second half of the film is shot in colour. That's not a spoiler, by the way, because in the trailer, the first half of the film, you can see that some parts of the trailer are black and white, some parts of the film are in colour in the trailer. And the way that is transitioned is done perfectly, in my opinion. It's done so well. And also you really get this feeling in the film that Bradley Cooper wants to tell this story, and he wants to tell it the correct way. He wants to tell it in the best way possible. I absolutely adored it, and apparently it comes out on Netflix on the 22nd of November, and I would definitely recommend, that's what Google says anyway, I would definitely recommend people check it out on Netflix when it comes out. I mean, it might not be for you, I will say that, the way the story's told, it's not going to work for everybody, it's just not. But I definitely recommend you give it a go, though. Because I loved it. It's one of the films of 2023 right now. It's not quite as good as Bike Riders for me. Bike Riders, which I reviewed yesterday on this channel, that is still the best film of the year for me. But this is up there. This film it's magnificent, and I don't say that about films often, but it really is something special. Again, as already mentioned briefly, it's going on to Netflix on the 22nd of November. I'm assuming it has a limited theatrical release around then, maybe just before. If you do get to see it in the cinema, if you have the opportunity, I would recommend it, especially if this is a film which has interested you, beforehand with its marketing and whatnot. But if you don't get a chance to see it in the cinema, watch it on Netflix. Put your volume up to like 70 or 80 or 90, maybe even 100, and you really get the experience of it. That's it. This film is an experience. That's why I loved it. That's one thing. It was not even like, there's something else I want to mention about this film. It's an experience, and that's why I loved it. Oh, it's so good. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Maestro, you know what? I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. The reason I'm not giving it any higher, even though I'm giving this film a glowing review, the reason I'm not giving this film any higher, and the reason I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10 like I gave Bike Riders, is because I need to see it on streaming to see if I feel different. I do think seeing it in the cinema has changed my opinion on it. I'm so glad that I got to cinema, and I'm a bit smug that I got to, because I don't know who else is going to have that experience. And it really is an experience watching the cinema. So yeah, I need to see it on streaming, because I've got a feeling I will feel different about this film when I see it on streaming, which is a shame. It is a shame that it is going straight, well, it's pretty much going straight to streaming. I mean, I know it's not, but it may as well be going straight to streaming. And so, yeah. That's a shame, and that's why I haven't really given it higher. And I would have also liked to see a bit more about his music making, although maybe it was in there, maybe I'm just forgetting, I only saw the film once, and it's one of those films that it finished and I instantly wanted to rewatch it, and I realised, oh, I'm going to wait a month and a half around that to go and rewatch it again. I mean, it's an annoying thing about seeing a preview screening or something. I mean, it's great to the film early, and it's great seeing a packed cinema with people reacting, which they did with this one, laughing. I heard some people getting emotional, some people getting a bit shocked at some stages. It was great seeing a packed cinema, but it also means I have to wait now for it actually comes out. But still, the film is magnificent, as what he said countless times. It is an unusual film. It's not going to be for everybody, but I thought it was a beautifully realised story of marriage, love and desire, and I love how much empathy I felt for these characters. I mean, I loved the film. I really, really loved it. And, yeah, can't wait for people to check it out when it finally does come out. And I can't wait to check it out again myself on streaming. Absolutely adored it. And so, as I've already said, I'm going to say that Maestro, I'm going to say that it's a 9 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that is it for this podcast for today. Maestro isn't out for a little bit, but when it does come out, and if you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast after Maestro has come out, let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. I mean, maybe you'll love it, or maybe you hate it. Whatever your thoughts are, come back to this podcast once you've seen Maestro and let me know, because I'd love to hear what people think of this film. I'd love to hear it. And do look out for it as well. when it comes out. Again, I think it's November the 22nd. Put it in your diary. Much like Bike Riders, put in your diary the week before Bike Riders comes out, watch Maestro. I told you so because it's very, very good. Very, 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 very good. Anyway, guys, that is it for this podcast. So, thank you as always for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like, subscribe on these podcasts. I look forward to many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel, and look forward to my next film review of the third film that I saw, the BFI, coming probably tomorrow. Look forward to my review of, I'll just tell you what it is. Look forward to my review of Priscilla coming tomorrow on this channel. That's the other film that I saw at the BFI. But until then, guys, as we said, thank you for all, I can't speak. Thank you as always for watching or listening to this podcast, and I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.